Okay, my name is James Dubro, and I'm a specialist on organized crime. Written a number of books on various mobs and mafias, and a number of films over my long career of 35 years, studying and writing about organized crime and doing films about organized crime. And I also wrote the definition of organized crime in the Canadian Encyclopedia for a number of editions. And I've always been, or certainly most recently, the last 20 years, against capital punishment because it doesn't work. I mean, capital punishment is used daily in organized crime to either eliminate people who are snitches or working with the police, or people who are unreliable. I can think in almost every book I've written there have been major executions of criminals. And yet, and it's also a way of changing the boss of a family or a group, the best way is to kill them. But it doesn't make capital punishment any more noble. In fact, it makes it more ignoble. The fact that the state would indulge, as Albert Camus said, in the most premeditated of murders makes it even more barbaric and immoral for a state to do that. So I've always believed well, more importantly, it doesn't work. I mean, capital punishment has been shown in study after study is not to deter killers. In fact, it leads to more killings because for fear of receiving the death penalty, you're likely to eliminate more witnesses. So really, and frequently we see in the United States, which has so many executions, and in China, which has many executions, that they do not use, and very, very rarely have I ever seen them use executions against bosses of a triad or leaders of organized crime gangs. They didn't even ask for the death penalty in the John Gotti case, and yet he died in jail. I mean, life imprisonment is a major, actually in many ways a worse penalty than capital punishment. Now, in Canada, I think you'd be hard-pressed to find too many people in favor of capital punishment, but there seem to be certain conservatives of the non-progressive kind that are quietly moving back to a position in favor of capital punishment. I think this case, in Montana case, where they've not invoked the clemency as is normally done in a capital case, indicates that Harper is moving in that direction, although he's not, to his credit, he hasn't reintroduced the capital punishment debate in Parliament, which, if you're really being cynical, he might do. It'd be a cheap way of getting some popular support, although from what I've been told, it's not all that popular anymore in Canada to have capital punishment. I remember in the 70s it was about 50-50, and now it's a lot less popular. It's simply because it doesn't work. The United States, of course, this is a good example. The United States right now isn't using much capital punishment because of all the technical problems they're having with administering injections and whether it's done properly or not. And so, and of course, the awful reality is that a certain percentage of people who are convicted of murder, of a certain premeditated murder, are not guilty of it, and there's no recourse once the person is executed. So a lot of governors have stopped using capital punishment. I think that's the direction things are going. Even in the United States, I think it's about 50-50 now about capital punishment. It used to be about 80 or 90% in favor. Now it's down to 50-50 because of all the mistakes and the barbarity of some of the executions. Even with the so-called injections, which are painless, supposedly. But there have been a lot of problems with that.